Hi everyone, it's Anjanette. I wanted to record a pretty quick video for you today because I've gotten some questions through, and I know that this is an experience that many of my authors have worked through previously and continue to work through. So I wanted to share this, and the topic is really around when you are to the point of submission and you're submitting to agents and or publishers, how do you handle the waiting process and or the rejections? Like, how many do you take before you scrap it all, or just how do you deal with it? And so I wanted to give you 3 pretty quick tips about how to do that. Now, the first one is one that it's not just one that I use. And I have seen others use it, and I think it is fabulous because it's a wonderful mindset hack, and that is to set your expectations high. Now, what do I mean by that? I actually want you to set the expectation that you need to plow through your first 100 rejections before you find the right match for your manuscript. Yeah, I just said that. I want you to have a goal of 100 rejections. Now, why does this work? Because it seems like, well, if I'm just expecting a rejection, why would I submit in the first place? Well, think of it a little bit like dating, right? You wouldn't expect to necessarily find your soulmate on the very first person you ever asked out or asked you out and you go on a date with, would you? I mean, it could happen, but for most of us, it doesn't happen that way, right? And that's the same thing with publishing. Sometimes there is magic, and you find that right match the first time, the first shot out of the gate. But most of the time, it doesn't happen like that. And so I want you to expect and really kind of psych yourself up for getting through the first 100. So that you can celebrate when you get the first one. And then you say, oh yes, my second rejection, my third, my fourth, my fifth. Do you see how it actually takes a long time to get to 100? I don't know that many people who actually hit 100 before they either have a shift in their direction or a change in like a major rewrite or a major edit or anything like that. And I'm not suggesting that you have to do it, but do you see how setting your expectation will bear some of the brunt of that supposed rejection? The only sort of twist to this is what I will say for tip number 2, and that is, how do you then handle not hearing back? Well, you kind of have to count that as potentially a rejection, right? You don't have to mark anything. I'm really pedantic about taking notes about this stuff, and I have a spreadsheet on all submissions I make on behalf of my clients, and I did this for myself when I was submitting work. So I don't necessarily write anything in there, but I stop counting on a yes. Most agents and publishers actually have it within their submission guidelines that if you don't hear back from them within sort of 8 to 12 weeks, that you have to assume that they're not interested. And it does not endear you to them if you call or email incessantly wanting to know the process that your manuscript is in. In fact, even if they were sort of on the fence, I can pretty much guarantee that you're going to fall on the wrong side of the fence if you don't pay attention to their instructions. Most of the people that I know in publishing are incredibly busy and annoying, maybe frustrating, certainly, but that's just how it is. So my second piece of advice was to actually allow the not hearing back, the ambiguity of that, as well as the rejections, to help you build a thicker skin. And let's be honest, this helps you in all areas of life to not take things personally. One of my favorite books, in fact, is by Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements, and that is one of them, to not take things personally. And that is certainly true in publishing. So the first bit of advice is aim high. Aim for 100 rejections before you get yourself feeling too bad either way about how the process is going for you and should you keep going. Number 2 is allow that ambiguity and even some of that feedback that maybe you don't want or not even necessarily be able to translate it, especially if it feels like a form letter sort of feedback. Let that allow you to build a thicker skin and recognize that you should not be taking it personally. The third piece of advice is really around, especially for those of us who are impatient, and I raise my hand because I'm not patient, actually, but the best trick is distraction. Distract yourself, in this case, with working on a new project, please. Why? Because when that day comes that a publisher comes back and says, yes, we think you're a good fit for us, do you know what the next question they're going to have for you? What else have you got for us? Because they want to know that you're not a one-hit wonder, that you haven't spent all your time writing only this and that's your only idea ever. Why? Because they are a business, in fact, and they want to know that they're going to partner with somebody who has more than one idea. It doesn't mean that if you sign a contract for that first book, that whatever book or whatever idea you have after, you are obligated to send to them. That really depends on the contract that you sign. However, it's good to know that you've got one. And the other thing being, it's amazing when you've got this annoying, very practical, very oftentimes tedious process of submitting. You've got some exciting, creative, something just to get your juices flowing, something else to look at when you're not looking at that. So distract yourself with something else that lights you up, because the submission process doesn't light anybody up. Like dead set, nobody is lit up by submitting and then waiting for somebody to say, yes, you're a fit for us, or no, not so much. And what those 3 bits of advice all sort of add up to is the overarching quality and characteristic that I preach all the time, which is perseverance wins. Perseverance wins. Look at any of your favorite authors who have made the big time, and you will see time and time again stories of highly successful authors who did not give up. And that's what I want you to be. That's how I want you to live, even if you've got little voices inside saying, oh, maybe that's the wrong thing, or you're doing this and you're never going to succeed. Listen to the voices, breathe them out, and keep moving forward. Now, I hope that maybe you've got an agent like me or a supportive crew of other writers. If you don't, please stay tuned, because I do have a possible solution for you. But everybody deserves to have a supportive group around them for those times where you need to offload some of those insecurities. Know that you're not alone with it. But at the end of the day, I want you to build that muscle that leads you to persevering anyway. I want you to believe in you, because I know I do. I hope that info has helped. I hope my tips and tricks are helping. And if you have any questions or any other ideas on topics you'd like me to address, please don't hesitate to send me an email at the email address below and just give me your questions so that I can answer them for you, because I do believe in you and getting your voice out into the world. Until next time, see you.